Welcome to my writing corner, if you will. My name is LD Valencia. I am an author, the author of the Gifted World series, kind of a superhero secret agent series. And today I want to kind of start a series in which I'm going to kind of go through some of the ideas and the ways that I kind of use to generate some ideas for my books. So my hope here is to kind of help you jumpstart your writing as a way of giving you some tips and tricks to add to your toolkit so that you can dive into your writing and be a little bit more successful. So the first one I'm going to get into is called slow motion multitasking. In slow motion multitasking, the idea here is that you have multiple projects that you can dive into at any given time. This could be multiple books or multiple writing projects, or it could be one writing and one other creative endeavor. As a creative, as an author, you probably have some sort of social media accounts and other creative endeavors that you need to kind of get into in order to grow your following, to grow your community of like-minded readers and writers. So when I say slow motion multitasking, I do not mean the kind of multitasking like you're watching The Office or another show and you're scrolling on your phone or playing an actual like a mobile game. That's not the kind of multitasking I'm talking about. I'm not talking about multitasking out of desperation, right? When your work gives you multiple projects and says these need to be done by X date, right? And you're having to multitask because you are desperate to get done because otherwise your boss is gonna, you know, get on your back and give you all kinds of grief. That's not the kind of multitasking we're talking about here. We're talking about multitasking in a more of a positive way because a lot of times we're forced to multitask. Multitasking can often be something that has a very negative connotation. For this type of multitasking, I'm thinking about it in a more positive light and thinking about it a way as a creative hopefully can kind of reharness that word and use it in a more positive tone. So there are a lot of people around the world in the past, present, that have used multitasking kind of in this same way, in this slow motion multitasking technique. Albert Einstein was known to have multiple projects at the same time. Back in 1905, he published four different very popular, very well known articles all that year. So it kind of tells us, he's been using this kind of technique of bouncing back and forth between different um, scientific endeavors. And some of these had nothing to do with each other, right? We have like the Brownian motion, we have the mass equivalency, mass energy equivalency. That's the famous E equals mc squared. Spatial relativity, all these different things all came out at the same time. There was a study done by Bernice Acheson that included people like Richard Feynman. And in this study, she showed us that a lot of the great scientists, the most enduring ones, really had multiple projects that they were working on at the same time. They changed their field of study and things like that. So, if this idea, this hopefully more positive take on multitasking, the idea here is that you have multiple different projects that you can bounce between as a creative. Now, I'm not talking about, like I said, different projects or like things out of desperation or like, oh man, I have this many deadlines, I have to get these things done. Kind of having different projects that you're working on in a given day that, let's say you're not really feeling the book about the space opera, right? You're not feeling that today, but you have other creative things you can put that time and energy into. Could be poetry. Maybe you are doing a little book of poems, right? Michael Crichton, one of the great writers, was doing several projects at the same time. He's not just known for the Jurassic World or Jurassic Park, universe, right? He was also publishing some of the great books. He also did a lot of nonfiction stuff, like in art and medicine, and he was also working on ER, one of the most well-received TV shows of all time, all at the same time. So having multiple projects that you can kind of get into at the same time and you can kind of work on is this idea that I really hope you can use in your arsenal to keep those creative juices flowing, even when project A isn't working, right? So using this technique of slow motion multitasking can really be helpful in kind of keeping those creative juices going when we're stuck on something, right? So this could be working on a project here or working on a different script, maybe for a screenplay, or working on, that really epic, massive fantasy series that you're gonna try and dive into. So having these different things that you kind of bounce between when maybe you're kind of stuck on this, but you still want to be able to kind of put the creative energy into something. So having multiple different creative projects that you can put that time and energy into can be really helpful. Sometimes when I'm working on, this book, but I'm not really feeling it that day, I'll be able to go work and put some energy into something else. Maybe I would do some video editing or work on our podcast, and do some different things with that creative time, that creative energy that I have, but I'm not necessarily wanting to work on my specific book in that moment. So slow motion multitasking is something that I use a whole lot. It does require a lot of organization. So kind of maybe on the con list if you are keeping score. If you're not super organized, this could be a little bit tricky for you. This could be physical. I use a lot of notebooks when I am taking ideas and writing stuff down. I'll use digital ones as well. So if you are more of a digital person, maybe have different Google Docs, give different Google folders, or another platform. I used to use one platform that had notebooks. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I don't use that platform anymore because of the massive paywall they put behind it. But I really, really liked that writing platform. And I haven't really gotten into another note taking app quite as deep as I got into that one. But if it's a digital or a physical way of organizing your materials, I would really, really encourage you to use some sort of platform or some sort of um, system to kind of have things organized. Maybe just have different boxes, right? There's an author that I follow, and he actually has different computers for his like gaming versus his like writing, and I think that's really good. I think it's a really important thing to kind of have your mental space ready to go when your time to write or when it's time to play and game, right? So kind of like having that different setup, that different system, I think is really helpful as well. So I'd encourage you to use whatever system works for you. If that's what you need to do, then go for it. If not, that's fine too. So try this out, and I hope you will leave a comment. Let me know in the comments if this is something you've used, if something you like, or if you have a different system that works for you. But I hope you guys have a good one, and I'll check you out next time in the writing corner.